Alright, hello guys, I'm Weather from the Summer School Discord, and I'm here to walk through this game, and I'm going to be following the Kha'Zix jungle. Like always, I'm going to start the game with going over what I think the win conditions are, because I think it's very important to know what you should be playing towards and what you should be trying to set up for come mid-game. Because if the wrong people get fed, you can find yourself still losing, even though you might have a gold lead or something. It's really important to be playing towards your advantages. Okay. So for starters, you guys have a very interesting team comp. You don't have an actual 80, or hang on, no, it's just they're swapped. Okay. So you have a Swain top and a Varus ADC. My bad. Um, the Swain matchup should be favoring Heimerdinger, I think, just in a laning phase situation. It's also going to be a little bit hard to gank for that, I believe, at least as Kha'Zix. Plus, since that's a newish rework, I wouldn't be expecting a whole lot. I think this would be mostly just them trying out this champion. From my brief time playing him, it's he has a little bit of mana problems, and his sustain's okay. So I don't expect too much to happen in this top lane. It could either go either way, and I don't really know again his role in team fights. But Hemmerdinger's team fights are pretty. You have to go in on the turrets, or Hemmerdinger's not going to be playing like Hemmerdinger. He needs his turrets. So either that's split pushing with them, or that's setting them up and you guys diving into it. Looking at your team comp, though, you don't have a whole lot of dive. You have a Lux for long range root burst. You have a Varus for long range rooted burst, and you have a Thresh for this long range engage too. You see what I'm going at? A lot of your team is meant to just pick someone and burst them down. You're not really going to be going into the Hemmerdinger's turrets, or at least you shouldn't need to. So that's really a lane that's not important. And the Hemmerdinger gets super far ahead, and it could be a problem just because if anyone gets super far ahead, it's a problem, but it's not really an important lane to be looking at. Because your team comp is going to be looking for these long-ranged bursts. And these like kind of stalled out team fights. What you are playing against is a very strong counter jungler and very strong jungler who can 1v1. You have a lot of engage on their side with Kennen. He can force pretty much every fight, especially with the Sivir ult. So you guys have a pretty difficult team comp to be playing against because what you have all this long range burst, but that requires you guys to kind of wait, right? You want to get this Q off, right? Root them, and then you want to burst this person down. But if you miss your Q, you want to wait for it to come back to try that again. If the Kennen sees you miss these things, he could just, flash on your guys and ult, and then all of a sudden, you guys have an Udyr on you, and then someone on your team is dead. So the biggest problem here is going to be probably the Kennen. And you're going to have to deal with that more or less regardless because he's either going to be utility or he's going to be burst damage going in with his ult. Bottom lane is actually an okay lane to be looking to gank too, just because your lane has a lot of setup for you, and their lane doesn't have a whole lot of escape. Nidalee can get away, but Sivir can't. And Sivir always pushes with her boomerang and stuff. So I would be looking to play towards mid and bot again, and I would be having a very cautious clear because you don't generally want the Udyr to catch you out. And if he has more, like the same amount of health as you do, you're probably going to have a lot of trouble in a 1v1 situation. If you catch him low, you would definitely win, but that's with any jungler, right? So I would be trying to do a very quick clear. I might even go buff to buff just to make sure I get to this before Udyr does. If not, I might even start this or might even get my team to ward this because this is, again, a very threatening jungle for you to be playing against. You do not want to find him early. You also know that since you do want to be playing towards mid or bot, going up here and starting red would be beneficial for you because then you're going to be able to end your clear bottom where you can set something up. This is just mostly my opinion of what I would be trying to do to adapt to their team comp. What you're doing isn't necessarily wrong, but I would be worried about the Udyr. I'd be worried about it. You don't have very good vision here, and a lot of this is your fault. You're just sitting on your camp even though you already have a Thresh here. Um, but I probably would have went out and warded this since your team isn't helping you. You don't want to get invaded, and you had the chance to. Whenever you walk down here and you see your mid laners doing this, walk over and ward. Tell your mid laner to ward your red. Type to your team. Whenever you let this stuff happen, it could be a severe disadvantage for you for no fucking reason. It really is unnecessary to give them this opportunity. So as Kha'Zix, if you're going for a level 3 clear, it's probably better that you do Gromp just because this is an isolated camp. Um, if you're trying to make it so that way your pathing is a little bit faster, maybe this is faster, just because of the nature of it's on your way. And I guess you don't have a whole lot of damage taken, so it shouldn't really be an issue. Again, there's that Udyr who is coming to you, so you know that he was going to try and invade you. Um, you had nothing to protect against that. You know that Udyr probably saw you, so he's either going to be trying to counter gank this or going mid right now. If I was the Udyr, I probably would have been chasing you down, and I probably would have been coming up here. So I'd be very careful with this gank. Okay, going for the Lux instead. So I would say that you got a little bit lucky with where the Udyr ended up going, but at the same time, it didn't look like you were going to lose that. You probably have definitely still picked up a kill, but it might have been a 1-for-1. So this isn't bad. The opportunity cost that I'll give you, though, is, again, I don't think that this is part of your win condition. If the Swain gets super fed, right, he is going to want to go in melee mode, he's going to want to be diving them, and that's not really a strategy that you want to be playing into this comp. They have a lot that could be causing problems for the Swain later. So your opportunity cost is over here where you're letting the Kennen, who is their long-ranged engage with a lot of burst damage, getting ahead. Um, I do disagree with focusing top here. If you were going there because you saw an opportunity, I mean, yeah, get something, but you should have seen the Udyr here, and you should have been paying attention to what he was going to do. Because you let this happen. You definitely did let this happen. And you get lucky there. That's your team coming back. That was pretty good. So what you're doing here, I really like. I really like this. You're not wasting time by sitting in the lane looking for this gank. You're doing scuttle. I really appreciate this. This is a great use of time. Even though it does slightly delay your gank, you still end up going for it, and you get a good window to do this. You don't really know summoner spells when you go in. Um, I don't know if you would have been able to get this. So the way you kind of use your abilities here, let's see if there's any mechanical issue. Yeah, you were going into Peel for the Lux, and then you jump on him. You probably could have tried to jump more ahead of him, but I don't even think you would have been able to pick up the kill there. Maybe with the flash auto at the end. And here's another little bit of an opportunity cost, though, right? This also happened. Um, I don't disagree with you going mid there. I think that going mid was a great idea. You already were pathing towards it, and it was something to do. And your lane wasn't even here yet, so definitely better to go mid. However, at this point, you could have been looking to also go bottom, right? You have no camps up here, and you decide to go top here. You're full health, relatively good mana. You have this speed up, and your lane has a pretty good chance of winning this just because of mana, right? Just because of mana. So in this window, you look like you're going to farm, but there's nothing left up here. You I don't think that you know that, though. I think Udyr stole that. Is that right? How far back is this? Nah, you could have known that. You could have known that. If you were tracking the Udyr where he went after that gank, you definitely could have known that. Especially with how you're waiting over here for nothing. You know that the Udyr is in your jungle, and you still choose to do this camp, and you don't see the Udyr. You definitely should have known that he was taking your Raptors. So there's no real excuse there. And that was your window to go bottom for sure. And once again, you start looking top. I really think this is a wasted resource to be looking over here. Because you see, again, an opportunity cost. Yeah. And that's what's going to happen to you in team fights now. You can't play into this. And that's going to be the same thing for the Swain. He can't play into it either. Completely free. You're not going to be able to get that one. And I would have done the same thing as you here. Your gank was fine. It was a little bit late, but not late in a way that you really could have done anything about. Right here, you should have been going for your blue first because the Udyr probably would have been able to come and try and counter gank or steal or something, right? He could have been around here because you haven't seen him recently. Um, so because of that, doing this is fine. You expect him to be staying under tower. All of this makes sense. It's just that the Varus is AFK. I do actually think that your pathing for this gank is a little bit bad. It's obvious that for starters, this is warded, right? And your goal here is to kill them, right? That's all that you care about here, getting the flank off and getting the kill. You're not caring about defending your team because this dive is going to happen, and you're not going in a way that's going to protect the Varus or deter the dive. What you do here is you use this blast thing, which prompts them to go in, right? Watch what happens. You use this, and then she ults. That kind of gave you away. And that's one of the reasons they chose to go in here. If you had been on this side of the fight, you probably could have been able to save both of their lives and pick up the Nidalee kill. So it still would have been one kill. You would have saved 2 people. Then you would have been able to maybe do Dragon afterwards. Or a bunch of other things. So your pathing for this gank is bad. And you're having a lot of trouble tracking the enemy jungle. You're staying unnecessarily here for this. There's no reason to be disrespecting like this. You take all of this harass and you think you're healing up, but you're not. Yeah, you deserve to die there. You're really disrespectful with that. Yeah, Nidalee had 3 kills at that point. She's not a support. She's basically a mid right now. And again, you're top. And this time you don't get anything. And you die. There's the investment of resources, right? The Kennen super fed, he's able to push in, he goes and roams and kills you. And easily, too. He kills you easily because he's getting fed, and he is an important person to be getting fed. And Heimerdinger doesn't play a valuable role on the enemy team at all. All he has to do is stop the Swain from split pushing, and that's it. Meanwhile, investment of resources, right? Do you see what kind of happens down here? Let's look at this whole time, right? So you're up here with, for starters, no camps, right? No camps. Your Thresh can't do anything bottom with just the Varus, so he's not bottom. Your Lux is looking to try and kill this. You could get a 3-man gank off on mid if you just decided to go mid right now. You could have been pathing bottom to farm. You could have been pathing bottom to stop this dive, because you know for a fact they're going to dive again. They've already dived once. They're going to dive again. And right, there's no farm. So the only reason you're going up here is to return gank top. He's not a valuable part of your win condition. This doesn't matter at all. You're letting your bottom lane die. You lose your turret because you're even if you went down here, right, and you didn't get any kills, you might be able to defend this. You don't care about your mid lane because even though your mid laner is set up with a half health Kennen, you know, and a Thresh is here to help with CC and exhaust, you don't care about coming for this. You're really tunneling on this lane. On a lane that doesn't matter at all. And then, since you wouldn't pay any attention to the Kennen started paying attention to you. And the Udyr has been playing really good at getting the Kennen fed. You haven't done anything to protect it. You got 1 Scuttle Crab, and you haven't been providing any vision around mid at all. So Udyr has been able to come back. You haven't been tracking the Udyr to prevent like his first gank, for example, which would have saved her life and prevented probably the second death too, because she ended up having to use flash for the next time. But Udyr probably wouldn't have returned gank then. And here you're deciding to farm between 3 enemies and another enemy. This is a pretty dangerous place to be farming now. And you can't walk that way. So now you're forced out, and you can't participate in this anymore. You don't know where the Kennen is, so the Kennen could come down here and... Okay. That was a good gank. That's exactly what you needed to do. You need to be paying attention to where the Kennen is right now, though. You do not know where he is. He could be coming down. The Udyr was just bottom and is probably near Dragon. No, he's not. Okay. There was no reason to walk back into that. You suicided. And here's your investment, so... Okay. Again, I'm not super familiar with this champion, but I still disagree with the investment. That was a good fight. You had were on the edge of the Kennen ult. They were focusing the Swain instead of the Lux. What's it you're building? Okay, Devour. Interesting. At this point, it seems like you've kind of given up the game. You're over here farming when they're on your tier 2. And you know they're already ready to dive. You're playing to the total other side of the map, and you've given up. These are free kills. You already blew the Sivir's Flash last time you came down. And you hold mid because whenever you were at the top side of the map, you couldn't show up bottom, so instead your team had to. You have no vision again because your wards are not in good spots. I really do think you need to review your warding. I don't even know where you've put down a ward because nothing has mattered. And you deserve to die here too because you're playing into this side of the map whenever you know the Lux has to be up here. You know the Heimerdinger had wave control, you had no vision, and you decide to go do this buff while they know where you're going. One of the most important things about being a jungler is to keep yourself hidden, right? Because then you have to play, or the enemy has to play safer. Once they knew where you were and knew what was up, they knew what you were going to be doing, which of course was a free kill for the Kennen because he had no reason to be middle. Being up here this time, I totally agree with because it's a good idea to be trying to respond to the Nidalee being up here. I think that at this point you really should be trying to sweep because you should assume this is warded the way they're acting, right? They're throwing fucking spears at you. So you're not going to get a gank off by standing here unless you ward. Not going to get a gank off. There's the enemy. Now they're going to dive. And if you hadn't had to use your flash out, or not flash, but jump out, you probably could have gone back into that and helped him out. And you had to use your jump because they knew where you were again. If you were over in these bushes, you could have gotten off that counter gank or counter dive. So your positioning for ganks is a pretty bad problem. You seem to be on the wrong side of the map, like you completely give up on where you need to respond to. Like it was super obvious you were going to have to respond to the second dive down here. It was obvious to be going for this mid lane play against the Kennen. It was obvious you were going to die over here. It was really disrespectful over here. You really don't care where the enemy is. It was obvious the Udyr was going to walk over here, down. You don't care where the enemy is, and you do not care where your allies are. Because you had a 3 versus 1 on the Kennen when the Kennen was half-life. You had a gank on bottom where you knew they were going to dive and you knew you could go through the tri-brush, but instead you walk all the way around to ensure you get one kill, which you couldn't have even guaranteed because they could have walked out up this way. And if both of them were over here to blast cone out, they could have blast coned up, which means that they both got out. Your gank was super selfish in looking for the kill. The second time you didn't show up here, even though the Varus was under turret, you were looking for this top lane gank again, which really doesn't matter for this game. It doesn't matter how fed he is if your team wants to play in a different way. Your team comp does not work with this guy, Swain. So you put this guy behind, right? So I was telling you Heimerdinger was going to do the same thing either way. Heimerdinger is pressuring this, which is allowing the enemy team to do whatever they want right now. You had to bring, even though the Heimerdinger was like up here by himself and he's like what, fucking like 0 and 6. He drew 4 people over to him. You're losing this whole wave, which if there was at least one other person up here, they could have been taking this tower. You could be taking Herald right now. Or Baron even, depending upon what stage of the game. And you still had to respond with this many people, and in this way. You aren't removing what the Heimerdinger could do by camping for him. What are you doing here? Looks like you're just trying to go get your red buff soon. Probably. Danger Ping was smart though. You know Kennan's over here. Oh, he's over on Herald, which is probably a better move anyways. And you traded 1 for 1. And they have Herald, so they're going to be able to put it down over here. Or did Heimerdinger have it? He might have had it. Yeah. And you don't have any control of your jungle. Don't you think this is a little weird? Even though you have wards up, these wards aren't helping your team do anything. You can't contest the Kennen because he's too far ahead. You haven't gotten far enough ahead to stop him. Opportunity cost. You decide to walk up top lane, and you're not here for this fight. You could have at least picked up the Sivir kill. See? This is how he's going to do his team fights. Okay, and she did not have to die there. This is great, though. I love how you're grouping for this turret. This is exactly what you need to get right now. And you also get this because of the Varus being pushed. It's a good idea to let him die. You shouldn't be responding down here. You need to be looking around Baron. This right here is where the enemy team should be doing Baron. because they drew you bot lane. There's 2 other people within vision. They're responding to the Herald right now, and they have 4 people up. They should be doing Baron. There's no reason for them to be here. There's no reason for you to be here. Did Kennen forget to Zhonya's? Yeah, he did. Huh. At this point, the correct play for them would be to send the Heimerdinger bottom and for them to be going and looking for Baron. I don't really know why there's so much awkward delay here in the game as a whole, but I'm gonna pretty much consider this over because you guys should not be able to come back at this point. Not with this kind of goal deficit and with the strategy you guys need to implement in Who's Fed. So let's highlight your warding locations, right? I'm going to go back and watch this because I think that you don't ward very well. Let me actually stick to you. So your first ward, you just saw the Udyr go down towards the Lux, right? You haven't put a ward down, and your ward's over here. So this ward is to see where the Udyr is coming from, right? Udyr would, for starters, be coming from over here in this Tribrush, and you also know that he was just over here and you weren't tracking him. The ward that you put down here should not see anything because Udyr will not be coming through here. He'll be coming from the Tribrush. So that's a very bad ward. Let's move on. Right? So there's your first ward that I don't like. I'm just fast forwarding through this to see where you put these wards down. Alright. Where's that ward going? No, you, okay. Alright, now you got 2 wards. The pink ward, if that was yours, whenever you just did this, did you put that down? Yeah. That's actually an okay location for a pink ward. It's not great, though, because this is only to set up for ganks, and you shouldn't be trying to camp this lane. I think that it would be much better for you to put a defensive ward for your jungle, considering that you are against a very aggressive counter jungler. I'll be looking instead to be putting a pink ward somewhere around mid lane, like right here, towards the entrance to your jungle, or even on top of your red buff, to again defend your jungle. This again is only really good for setting up ganks, and you shouldn't be focusing this lane in my opinion. I'm trying to just make it stick to you again. I don't know an easy way to hotkey back to it. You again still have 2 wards. Wait, did you just put one down? Yeah, you did. So whenever you're moving over here, where is it? Yeah, you're really trying to secure this lane. Warding that whenever the Lux pings Mia, I think is an okay idea. But the way that you walk out of this, if you were warding this because that you think the Kennen is going to gank you, right? Then why are you walking out towards the bottom whenever you have an easy time just walking out towards the top? There's no reason to walk out this way. Again, this is your pathing choices. For like the fourth, this is one of like 4 occasions this game that your pathing choices are very strange to me. You do it here, you do it in your bot lane gank, you do it by pathing top whenever they are on your inner turrets, you do it by pathing top again whenever you have your mid lane gank opportunity moments before this. You have a lot of windows where you just path in weird ways and kind of ignore where map positionings are, specifically where other people are, right? Waves, you don't have any wave examples this game where you're responding to waves. It's all responding to people that you know are there. These are not even assumptions. These are people that you know are there. They're not assumptions. So far, you have put down one ward that I like in 9.5 minutes. And warding over there, I actually do like kind of as well. It's not super good for what, for like the future. Actually, hang on. Let's continue talking about that. So right over here, right? You're taking this camp, and I did comment that I did not like you taking this camp. After this, you go and you ward over here because you want to see if the Udyr is here, right? Or see if they're coming for you or something. But if your goal is to defend, right? If your goal is to defend bottom lane, that's the only reason you'd ward this, to defend bottom lane. Then why are you like pathing to the top side so often? Why do you not care about bottom lane? Right? And you do come back, but the window that you ward this, right? You know where the Udyr is. Right? You know he's here. You know he's here. You know he's here. You see him coming this way, and you're like, let me make sure he leaves. Right? Now, are you sure he leaves? You're not. Where'd he go? He's not right here right now, but he could be walking around just like you. And I clicked on something. I was at least 9 minutes in. I don't remember exactly where. I think you just got those kills bottom. Alright. So I don't like this ward because it shouldn't have told you very much. It did let you know that Udyr was not going to be immediately here, but you didn't know if he was going to be there for the pursue. And you did chase. And this is your ward. Again, this is this your ward? Where do you put it? There's no reason to put a fucking ward here. This turret's still up. You're not going to be getting anyone cutting through here, and you've already literally walked through this, right? You see what I'm saying? This ward doesn't show you jack shit. Now this turret's gone. Now you can be looking at that. But if you're saying, like, yes, you spot someone over here, if you've already went through this and their windows are going to see, like, you are going to see them walking through here. Try and go deeper with your vision so you can have your team react sooner, so you can react sooner. All of this vision, this you already know where they are because you would have seen them at this turret. This you already knew where they were because you had already seen them at this turret. This was only for ganking. This one was okay. Again, I still only like one of your wards. And that's why your maps are so dark. And is that your ward too? Yeah, that was your ward, wasn't it? So what the fuck are you defending over here? Your bottom lane is over here. Your Thresh is over here. Your camps are all down. So what's the point of having this ward? To know where they are? Great! What are they going to do over here, though? Nothing. This ward shows you nothing. Because you're going to leave here. Why would they even be here? They're going to either be on Dragon or be on the Wave or be somewhere entirely different. This isn't going to show you jack shit like your other ward over here. These wards aren't showing jack shit. And that's, again, positioning. You were waiting for this gank, and it was obvious this was warded. The reason you had to use your jump out was because you saw them engaging. You could have been waiting over here for this dive if you expected it. Okay, you warded again. And you ward over here this time. This is a super passive ward, and this should never actually see anything. If you were using this to clear vision again, and you knew they were warding there, it would make it almost worth it. I don't like this pink ward placement. You buying a pink ward that is this far back in your base is not going to give you time to react to anything, because the only reason they would be in here is if they've already pinked it and they were waiting for a pick, because this turret's still up and this turret's still up. If they rotate, they're going to rotate through here. So this pink ward is pointless. It is fucking pointless. And the ward you put over here, it's not positioned correctly. You can position this further out to give you more vision. Plus, if you want to give this another idea, right? Put it out over here. That way, not only do you see the same exact rotation that you're looking for, you can see if they're going to go into these bushes because your turret's still fucking up and they're not going to walk behind it, and you could see that, right? You could see the rotation still. You could see that. They're not going to walk up like this, but now that you already have your redundant pink ward, right, this ward over here could be put up here. And if you're afraid of going over there, that would make a little bit of sense right now. But this whole play over on this side of the map, right, is risky because they've already gone missing. The Kennen could be coming back down, and the Udyr could be over here too. You don't know where they are. You know, some of them were mid. Something else I'd like to mention is with the people that are getting fed, the Kennen super far ahead, right? And they've got Kennen as AP and the fed Nidalee that's AP. I would be looking to get an early Hex Drinker instead of going for your Black Cleaver this early. Their team is not really stacking armor to the extent that you would need a Black Cleaver right now. You're only doing that because you have a static build, and you shouldn't do that. And you've just switched to a sweeper. Okay, I appreciate that. Alright, so at this point, you're not really going to be super responsible for warding anymore. At lower elo, I always suggest taking zombie wards, so that way you can at least slightly benefit from the prolonged wards. I believe you did have that. I'm pretty sure I saw your zombie ward over here. Having red trinket and zombie ward should still provide you some adequate vision. You just can't be as choosy with where it is. Here's where I'm going to stop looking at your vision specifically, and I would say that like even though it's giving you like a pretty high vision score, I would put your score somewhere around 6. To put it into comparison, like your Thresh really should have been doing a little bit more with vision, um, but you haven't provided very much useful vision. The ward that you had over here was the only one that I completely agree with. The ward to see the Udyr was okay, but it wasn't really very good for tracking him. And the wards that you put over here were redundant and also incredibly safe. Your pink ward location over here I didn't like because I didn't think you should be here. And this is only for setting up ganks with a lane that, in my opinion, you shouldn't be focused on ganking. So I would say your biggest problems come from warding. It comes from your pathing. Your pathing mostly for these ganks is not paying attention to positioning or adapting to positioning. Your positioning on the map. You know what's happening. It's very obvious what is going to happen. You know these lanes are going to get dove. You know they're going to get pushed in. And you choose to go top again and again and again and again and again. It's almost like your duo queue with this top laner and he told you he's going to carry, so you're constantly ganking for him. It doesn't fucking matter because he's not part of your win condition, because it's not going to change what's happening this game. Plus, you don't track people, both the enemy and your own team. Whenever the Thresh was over here looking for this gank and you had an opportunity to come mid in a 3v1 with exhaust, you chose instead to again gank top, which did not matter. Your like team positioning again is with this dive that happened, and you went all the way around and could have saved both of their lives. Your positioning with the enemy, where rather tracking of the enemy, where you see that the Udyr is over here, and you instead ward this initially instead of the tri-brush, so you don't know where the fuck the Udyr is going to come from, and you completely ignore and don't even ping mid lane after seeing the Udyr. Your starting of the game, where you did not provide vision in this area in any way, but whether or not it was standing here or warding here. Your build choice needs some help because you decide to ignore who is getting fed on their team. They have 3 heavy AP, and you were only looking at it like their Heimerdinger was their only AP. And their Heimerdinger is not a problem to begin with, but they have a lot of problems on their team that are AP. That's part of the reason that, for example, you're able to get 1v1 by the Kennen super easily when he had like 200 life. I also think that your ganking priority, as I had mentioned several times this game, does not take into consideration win conditions at all. You seem to be ganking top lane, and once you made up your mind to gank top lane once, you were like, I'm going to camp the shit out of this lane because Heimerdinger's hard. You really should be trying to pay more attention to what win conditions are, and especially adapting to where camps are. You had no reason to be coming up top lane other than to look for this return gank. There was nothing else to do here, and if this didn't happen, then you would have been very far behind, just due to opportunity costs when you could have been going bottom. And of course, because your team was falling behind bottom and mid due to the Udyr getting off successful ganks and you not partially, in these two areas, right? You got off successful ganks, but top lane. That was going to allow them full control of this side of your jungle, and then once they started rotating, the bottom lane was going to allow control anywhere. Your vision that you put down did not give you any control of your own jungle, so you weren't able to catch out the Udyr and punish his invades. And also that time you showed mid and gave away where you were and then rotated over to your red buff to take the red buff was incredibly obvious and very risky. You ended up dying for it, and that should happen. That should happen. If you do this and you take this chance, and they are paying attention to the map, they should kill you every time. That was an incredibly obvious play, and your team was not in position to respond to that or help you. I would say that your first gank up top lane was an okay trade, but then you should have ignored it from that point onwards. You also rotate away from your team fight. Like, as I had mentioned, you were up here and I thought you already gave up the game because you were farming these camps, and while they were on your like base, and then you decide to hold mid because the Lux had to rotate down in your stead. It means you're not paying attention again to the greater, like, where people are and what they're doing. You need to be able to respond to this. Your team comp as a whole has, if you want to look at that again, I know you were asking kind of what champions you should play at some point, but what this is it's already a bunch of pick, and very little peel and very little control. The only control you have is box and flay. Everything else is essentially pick. And that means that if someone gets on the fight and you're already in there, there's no disengage, there's no shields, there's very little like slow ability. I know you can argue for any slow on your team, but trust me, that doesn't really compare at all to if you had picked a Sejuani, right? And I always use her as an example because she is a team fight champion, right? And because you have drafted this comp and you are focusing your bruiser lane instead of your burst pick lanes, you're going to have more trouble as a team, and your job as finishing off kills is going to be very different because they're just going to run away from him. They're going to run away from the Swain if the Swain's super far ahead. They're going to wait for their opportunity to engage on your weaker pick carries. You don't control the river at all this game, and you really should try and put more focus into trying to control the river, push up this vision line. You also are very disrespectful, both with how you were deciding to take the honey fruit against the Nidalee who was fed, and how you decided to go in on the Kennen without knowing his summoner spells. That was, or even his ult, that was a fight that I think that you should have been able to win, admittedly, but it was a risky fight. You were fighting in a minion wave, so he wasn't isolated. You were fighting when he had sums, or not sums, but his ult, and he had a lot of CC, and you were jumping on him to engage. So that was risky. And yeah, there were a lot of risks in this game that you took, and a lot of positioning errors, a lot of pathing errors, and a lot of win condition errors, a lot of vision errors. Anyways, that's the end of